Hello and welcome to another episode of WhipChat. My name is Christian, and on this episode, I am interviewing Chris Barr. We have a great episode ahead for you. I talk about how he got started in whips, his wonderful win recently this year at the Australian plaiting competition, the time that he spent out in being a cowboy, basically, and where he learned to braid and how he became such a master craftsman, really. This episode started out pretty rough, and there was a technical glitch that caused a crazy feedback error that really corrupted the audio for about 5 minutes. Not too bad, and most of it is just fine. I did call him back the next day, and we are covering some of the same information a second time. So thank you very much, Chris, for your patience and going back over that with me. Technology strikes again. But I want you guys to join me and enjoy this wonderful conversation with Chris Barr. I appreciate your patience, Chris, going over these again. But I did want to make sure that we cover the first part of your life and how you really got started into whip making. And one thing I didn't really dig into much at the first time was, how were whips part of your early life? Were you on a ranch? Were there stock whips around when you were younger? Did you use one? That kind of thing?
Yeah, well, they were part of my life as I was growing up, but I didn't really get to use them too much. And it wasn't until I left home and was working on the cattle station, in Western Queensland, that the head stockman actually showed me how to use one properly. And then I carried one pretty much on a horse when I was doing stock work pretty much all the time from then on.
Wow. How long were you doing stock work? You were a stockman?
On and off pretty much most of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you are expert in horses and cattle and whips, basically, right?
Wouldn't call myself an expert, but I just like the lifestyle.
I've recently been reading Richard Taubman's book, one of the last, about Sid Bayless, and I don't know if you've had a chance to read his book.
No, I haven't.
It's a fascinating glimpse into what I assume was similar to your life, what it was like to go cross country as a stockman, and moving cattle from here to there and living off the land while you're doing that with the cattle train. So that's real cowboy work. That's not your city cowboy at all. You don't have the pearl buttons out there.
No, that's right.
So you told me that when you first started making whips, that it was the head stockman that you saw. That was one of the first whips. Can you tell me about that again?
Yeah, it was the head stockman that I worked under. He ordered a whip from an older gentleman in town. That guy used to come out and do stock work with us. He was like a contract stockman, and if we needed an extra hand, he'd come out and help us out. And found out that he made stock whips. So the head stockman ordered one from him, and I think that was in the early 80s, and it was like $150 for this. Wow. And that was probably 2 weeks' wages for me at that time.
Oh my goodness, that was a lot of money.
That was quite a bit of money. Yeah, and when the head stockman finally got that whip, I just thought it was just absolutely beautiful, because we just had red-eyed whips and a couple of old red-eyed whips and that at the station, and this was a shot-loaded, 7-foot long, 16-strand stock whip, and he done a very, very good job on it.
Was the handle beautifully made as well as the thong?
Yeah, it was. He pulled a cowtail over the handle, over the cane handle, and then plaited over the top of that as well. So it was a pretty unique deal going on that he had going on with that.
I'm trying to picture what that would look like. What is a cowtail being plaited over cowtail? How does that change what it looks like?
Well, the cowtail was the hair, and that was scraped off it, and
Right.
then it's pulled over the cane, so it's the cane's tapered,
Right.
and then the cowtail's pulled over the cane, and then as the cowtail dries, it shrinks onto the cane, and instead of putting spring steel up inside of it, it just adds that little bit extra strength to the cane. Been skived down a bit.
I see. So it probably made the handle slightly smaller to compensate for the thickness, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay. So it didn't look that much different, but it functioned slightly differently. The flexibility.
Yeah, it functions slightly different, and it does look a little bit different. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got an old cowtail handle here, and you can see it's a bit different.
Yeah. Can you grab it? Is it handy?
Yeah, I should be able to.
I'd love to see that. I've never seen one. I saw a sketch in one of Ron Edwards' books or Morgan's book.
So you can see here, that's the end,
Oh yeah.
and then that's where it would have gone onto the animal, and then it'll keep going along.
Has a unique texture to it as well.
Yeah, it does. Yep.
Probably makes it a bit easier to grip even without the plaiting over it.
Yeah. But Alec platted over the other one that Frank had.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. I love that. That's such a unique, and that must have been really inspiring, it sounds like.
Well, when I saw it, I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And that's sort of inspired me to teach myself how to plait.
Sure.
I worked out how to do a 4 plait, and then I mucked around with some old string and baling twine and that, and worked out how to do an 8 plait. And then it wasn't until I came home at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And we used to send hides, our cow hides, from the farm to the tannery to get done for making gear on the
Sure.
farm. And they had kangaroo hides over there. So I thought, right, I'll get a couple of these kangaroo hides, and I had an old whip that had been chewed up. So I pulled it apart and worked out how everything sort of went together, and that's how I started.
Oh my goodness. That's definitely sounds like the hard way of figuring it out. I can't imagine working out a 4 plait or even an 8 plait just by messing around with 8 strands. Oh my goodness. Must be very good at puzzles.
Yeah, I like sort of working things out and the challenge of that sort of stuff.
Right. How did that so once you worked it out, did you do a shot load as well? How did that crack?
Oh yeah. That's so I finished it, and it was I wanted to do 12 strands, so I made 12 strands, and then it was about 8 foot long, and because the one that the head stockman had received, I reckon that it's got to be. I'm going to make it shot loaded, because shot loaded whips are always better. Out in the bush, there's a mystique that the shot loaded whip is that sort of legendary.
Okay.
But I've learned since then that it's not really necessary. You don't need lead shot if the whip's weighted properly.
Okay.
But I started plaiting that, and I got it finished and put the foil and that on it and the cracker, and I was so keen to see how it worked that I think it was probably about 1 inch diameter at the heaviest point. Like this thing was pretty damn heavy, and I don't even know how much lead I put in it, but it was way too much. So I've taken it outside and I swung it around and I've cracked it, and I think I cracked about 1 foot off the end of it completely.
Oh no.
All the lead shot and that was in it, and it was just it just went bang, and so I took it back in and pulled it apart and pulled the shot out of it, and I think I ended up redoing that whip about 4 times before I actually got it right.
Wow. I bet those were major changes between each iteration, I expect. Each of those 4 times and beyond, I imagine. Just like my whip.
Oh,
yeah.
You learn something different every time. I'm still learning different ways and refining techniques and that as I go along. If something works out a little bit better, or yeah, you're always thinking about how to get that finish a little bit better, how to get the strings to seat in a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah. Did you do things like I really skive the edges on those and cut them out when you cut the laces tapered and all on those first few whips?
Yeah, well, the first ones, see, I didn't really know what I was doing, and so I figured that if I could lay the hide out on the table and I'd mark the strand width out with the dividers, and I didn't know anything about stretch or anything like that, so those strings were all pretty much the same width, and then I just had the round knife that we use for our normal leather work, and I just started to cut the strings out like that. And I suppose it wasn't until I went to John Darien to the first ever Whipmakers and Platters Association gathering.
Sure.
And I watched Morris doing there, and he was demonstrating thumbnail cutting. And when I got home, I thought, well, if I mark it out with the dividers instead of using the knife, I should be able to just follow that line with a sharp knife. So that's how I set about teaching myself how to cut out by hand.
Wow.
I bastardized Morris's method. I don't use my thumbnail as a guide. I just sort of use my thumb.
Okay. Today?
Yeah, because I found that it used to wear underneath in the quick of my thumb area, and it get a bit sore. So, yeah.
Do you feel like you have enough control today when you're doing that? With obviously from your first place win, clearly you have a lot of control there with the gauges and stuff. I'm sure that can help get in accurate.
Well, the thing is, when you're cutting it out freehand, you can compensate in those places where it stretches. So you can cut it a little bit wider, and sometimes it might stretch down to half the actual width of the string that you're cutting. So if you're looking to cut a 5mm string, and in that stretch area, you might have to cut it 10mm wide, and then bring it down, like around the tail area, and that it's not going to stretch much at all, because you just pretty much cut that maybe 5.5mm, and then as you're coming around into the belly and those flank areas, and underneath the armpit areas on the kangaroo hides, that's where most of the stretch is going to be.
So you cut it a little bit wider. How well do you feel like you can do that these days? You feel like you're pretty accurate to read the hide and go wide, go narrow as you go around?
Yeah, I've probably cut enough hides now that I've got a pretty good idea of where that stretch area is going to be. Every now and then it'll surprise you, but most of the time, and I'm more on quality than quantity, and pretty much always have been. So I don't mind if I have a little bit extra waste, because I want the product that I put out to be the best that I can do.
Sure, and that makes a lot of sense. And I can see how different makers have different focus on quality, quantity, or some combination thereof, depending on what you're doing. But in this portion of the episode, we transition away from his early life and continue on with what happens next. The initial portion was the re-recorded section. So now we continue with the first part of my interview, recorded the day before. So from there, was that your main focus, or was this a side hobby? How did you continue to learn and because obviously where you've gone from there is dramatically different. You have come a long ways.
Yeah, well, how would you say? Was working in stock camps, that sort of thing, and making our own gear.
Yeah.
Like bridles and reins and all that sort of stuff. It just sort of follows on there. So I kept making a few whips, and then I think it was in '92, and I'd come back from the Northern Territory and to the family property, and I saw advertised that there was a whipmakers gathering at John Darien, which was actually the first gathering of the Australian Whipmakers and Platters Association.
Okay.
At John Darien Wood. So I went over there and saw a few different people, met Morris Doohan, and I'll a bit of a story about that one later on. But
Yeah.
that really got me to focus on making whips and sort of thing from then on.
So was this after you had been spending some time, being Australian cowboy basically, and you were an adult working out on your own, doing this sort of thing?
Yeah, that's right. I'd been making whips probably for about 10 years, I suppose, on my own.
Oh, wow.
I hadn't really had. I think I got a book from Ron Edwards, the first kangaroo hide whip making book that he did. I think I'd been making whips for about 5 years, and then I got that book, and that helped out a little bit. And I worked out how to start doing two-tone work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when you went to this platting association, and what did that feel like, being able to see the other platters that were obviously so much into it, just as you were hoping to be, apparently? Was it inspiring? Was it intimidating? What was that like?
Well, there was a lot of different whip makers there, and as I met Morris Doohan there, and there was a couple other fellows, and everyone was very keen to share their knowledge. There was a few collectors there that had whips made from people way back, whip makers. Cecil Henderson was one. There's a guy had quite a few of Cecil Henderson's whips. One was 48 strength handle, and I thought that was just amazing.
Oh, I imagine. So was that especially inspiring then? People like Morris and Cecil able to share some of their knowledge? Were you able to apprenticeship with anyone? How did that go from there?
Well, I had a chat with Morris.
Okay.
And I had some photos of some gear that I was making, because I was making cowboy gear, like American Puero buckaroo style gear, hackamores and reins and stuff like that. And I had a couple of hackamores and reins that I'd made. I didn't have any whips on hand, but I had a photo of a two-tone whip that I'd done, and I showed them to Morris. And it's it's been a standing joke between the two of us since then, that he had a look at the photos and had gear, and he says, you probably keep making that buckaroo gear and leave the whips to the whip makers.
Oh dear, that's not very nice.
So I think that was a bit of a push, but Morris and I are very good friends, and it's a standing joke between the pair of us. Yeah.
Oh wow. So that's a good teasing, I guess you would call it, a ribbing between professionals to move forward there. I think it's, I mean, I see that between other professionals as well, to where you help each other get better, you push each other, a friendly competition, a little bit of competing between each other. I have seen, however, some people are not as keen to share how things are done, and they're actually competitive. Have you run across that much as well, or did you have pretty open once you got in person with people?
Yeah, some people were a little bit closed, but with the Australian Platters Whipmaking Association, when it was in full swing, all the gatherings and everything there, everyone was very open to sharing their knowledge, and I think that helped improve whipmaking in Australia no end. When I joined, I think there was under 100 members worldwide.
Okay.
And then at a time, I think we had about 360 members. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was just through the journal, through Ron Edwards.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good number of people. And did most of those members meet up on a regular basis to show off their work and
share
information? They did have a
meeting every couple of years at John Darien, and then it changed to being down at Stanthorpe.
Mm-hmm.
And that went on. There is still a group of the whipmakers that still get together every 12 months or 2 years at Easter time.
Okay. Do you still get together with in person with whipmakers and share knowledge and Adam Winwich actually has mentioned that he's been out to see you, for instance, from
Yeah,
America
Adam
here.
come and visit on a few occasions. And that was really good because we could have a chat about performance of things, how whips form, the different
Yeah.
papers. And Adam being such a good whip cracker, that really helped to get balance and that stuff. And we just changed weights on whips that already knew that were very, very good.
Yeah.
And then we just changed the balance of the whip by putting extra leather on it, moving it backwards and forwards. Yeah.
Okay. So do you feel like that changed each time he's come out to visit? You changed how you do things, or did you just change it for how you make them for him specifically?
Oh, I think you refine things as you go along.
Yeah.
And you'll try different things. Some things might not work, but then other stuff that does work, well, then you start to incorporate that in what you're doing.
Can you think of a specific example of something that either didn't work or did work that you're like, I should have done this a long time ago as you change things?
Well, I think the biggest change in the whip I made was seeing a whip made by Victor Leary.
Okay.
It's the handle's hanging here behind me. And I first come across this whip about 25 years ago, I suppose.
Okay.
And a gentleman bought it to me to have a look at and do a little bit of a restoration on it. He found it in Brisbane at someone's place.
Okay.
And the keeper was, sort of perished, or something. The leather had worn through. Because the whip was probably about 50-year-old at that time.
Wow.
So he asked me if I could replace it. So when I was taking the keeper off, I thought, geez, this keeper's so tight. But it's very neat and small. And once I got it off, I found out how it was folded and how it was actually bound on. And so I took a template of it. That's sort of what I've used ever since.
Oh.
Yeah, and that I do the same sort of keeper on the thong now. I changed the keeper on my thong as well, so that everything marries up really nice and neat. And it still pivots, but it's a very tight keeper.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard people talk about that. Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, well, there's a lot in that pivot point between the keeper and the handle on the stock whip. You can change the balance pretty easy there. If it's too loose, sometimes the whip will kick back a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you need to have it. It needs to be able to pivot, but it still needs to be tight, if you know what I mean.
No, I do know what you mean. And I used a similar to, I think it's called a Hungarian whip, to where it's very loose.
Yep.
It's like an inch gap, and it bounces around in there. And it felt significantly different. Obviously, doing quick reverses, it loses contact completely with the thong for a moment. So I would think when someone's doing, especially fast whip cracking, like what Adam would do, for example, that would be a major hindrance. So tighter would be better, but still you have to have the mobility. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Charlie Hassett used to say the whip should heat north, south, east, and west. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, of course, is Hassett's four corners.
That's right.
Yeah. Still can't do that one. It's a tough one. Do you do a lot of cracking, like with trying to get those kind of cracks in? Are you able to do?
No, not really. I don't do too much whip cracking at all. Most of my whip cracking is doing stock work, and that's where I learn.
Right, a working cowboy.
Yep.
Yeah. So are you still getting out there and moving stock around? Or are you focused primarily on the whip making these days?
Primarily on the whip making at the moment, yeah. But we've got horses and do stock work every now and then for neighbours and that sort of thing.
Sure, sure. Well, with your experience, so many years, I imagine it's nice to have someone that knows what they're doing around. Quite so. Did you have any like apprenticeship work or anybody that you were able to go and really get a lot of information at once from over the years, or has it been just a gradual, you're figuring it out as you work with the whips?
I think probably starting to do the competition stuff and running into the likes of Dennis Gardner and Charlie Hassett and being able to talk with Boris Dillon.
Yeah.
Those guys helped out. That would have been early 2000, I suppose, around 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they? How did they help you? What did like Charlie Hassett do for you?
Well, Charlie was one of the judges, and Bob Green too, also at the at Glen Innes, which turned out to be the start of the Australian Plaiting Championship. So you had the opportunity to go and talk to the judges and ask them where you could improve. Like the first week that I took the competition was just stuff that I had off the back, and I thought they were pretty good compared to them. And then when I got to score the whips from other makers, you realise how much further you got to go.
Oh, indeed. Yeah, I went to WhipCon here in Los Angeles this year, and I had a similar experience. I almost withdrew mine after I saw the competition, but it was a good experience. What was it that drove you to start competing with whip making competition itself? What gave you that idea, and are you a competitive person?
Probably not, but it was just to improve.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it was a good selling point too, to be able to have an award-winning whips and that thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's part of how I introduced you. Poorly, but I I would love to show, speaking of your award-winning, I could show your award-winning from this year here up on the screen for those watching the podcast later. This right here is this work of art is just unbelievable. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I started on that about 2 years ago.
Whoa.
So I cut all the strings. I had weather like today, which is a bit showery and nice. I was working in the same area where I'm now and started to cut all the strings for it. The strings are 0.7 of a millimetre.
0.7 mil.
0.3 of a millimetre deep, and they're rawhide tank fruit.
So is it all rawhide, or is it a mix between the two?
No, it's all, the handle is all rawhide, and then you've got leather and thong with some rawhide interweaves in it.
Ah, yes, I see those.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the handle, I started on it, I think it was March, about this time 2 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
How many hours of work? I mean, obviously, it probably wasn't 2 years straight. You have to make a living otherwise. But
yes.
So you just do a bit and you set it aside and work on it when you have time, or
I do a bit, and I sort of got the that 96 string section finished, and so I probably do about an inch a day.
Wow.
on that handle. Sometimes you wouldn't even get that much done, especially with the pattern work where the mud is in there.
Yeah, like the horse here. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think that took a couple of days to do that. And you've got the plan side of things as well. So mapping the all the unders and overs on the computer. So I use a graph paper that I've got on the computer, and I can map out the different patterns and where things go. And that takes just long.
Yeah, I imagine. That's wow. So is it a specialized program for this, or you just use like a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet sort of thing?
I just use it right up.
Okay.
So it's like an. Yeah.
Do you think the well, let me ask you a bit about the design. So when you're in the design process, do you have an inspiration? I mean, obviously horses and horseshoes here, you have certainly an equestrian theme going.
Yeah.
Is that what motivates you when you start designing something like this? Or do you have I just think this would look cool. Like, what is your artistic inspiration? Because, I mean, this is as much a painting as the Mona Lisa. This is just beautiful.
Well, the horses have been a big part of my life.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to make a whip that was sort of based on horse stuff. There's the design that's in the middle of it. It's the view of a horse front on his head looking at you.
Oh, yeah.
And I worked out a similar design to that probably 15 years ago, but I never implemented. So that was always back in my mind to be able to use that in something that I did.
Well, you certainly have done justice to it. My goodness. So this is, I was just looking at where you posted about it. So yeah, 96 strand. That's just incredible. And that's down here at the base where you began,
Yep.
right? And then you dropped
strings there, and then drop into 72.
Dropped to 72 for this section here across the middle with
And
a
then
front on horse. And then a measly 60, 60 strands. Oh my goodness, that's just stunning. I have never done work close to that. That is so amazing. Well, congratulations. Well-deserved win, sir. That is so impressive. You must feel very proud. And hopefully justified in so much time that you put into it.
There's probably over 250 hours. I think I was trying to work it out the other day.
Yeah.
And just the Turk's head alone, I designed that. It's an original Turk's head. I haven't seen that design anywhere before.
Ah, yeah.
Just in designing and finding that is about 50 hours.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm you've caught me speechless. I'm just staring at it, continuing. The more I look at it, the more details I see. It is absolutely beautiful. So is there a name for what you've built here? We were just going to call this a Chris Barr knot?
Yeah, I suppose so. But
it's beautiful.
It's based on the 13 part height head, and then it's just a herringbone knot or pineapple knot, but it's got gaucho bars in the middle of it.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Like ring plait, which I like to put the ring plait in my thongs. That's a bit of a trademark for me now.
Yeah, it adds quite a lot. Oh yeah, here we go. Over here. Oh, and here's some more.
Yeah.
Just beautiful. So is this... So you wove in some rawhide here for an interweave. Yeah. Is there any interweave for the ring plait, or is that just changing the pattern?
No, that's just the pattern.
Okay, yeah. Oh, it's beautiful.
And then with the rawhide interweave, I changed the pattern there as well.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Do an interweave similar to a box head that I designed probably 20 odd years ago.
Wow. I saw that Chris Wright, who placed at WhipCon this year, he mentioned that he was inspired by this work. He put this in his nylon stock whip that he made. Yeah. He did something similar. So
yeah, I've had a bit of a chat with Chris on a number of days.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And that's really nice of you to continue to share what you know with the community. Wow. So what is the so what's next? Oh my goodness, where do you go after this? 1,000,000 string.
Nah, I think that's getting pretty close to the limit, especially on that moment. I know that a good friend of mine, Peter Thorndike, he's used 108 strings in the handle, and that was a masterpiece.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's so one of the questions that I was talking to several different people before our interview today, and 2 different people actually mentioned, make sure you ask him, how does he keep his plaiting so straight, so perfect, so in line all the way? Do you have any suggestions for people that are, I mean, even if it's not quite so high plait count, like how do you keep it just so perfectly straight? How do you, so neat?
Just practice, I guess.
Now there you have it. No magic.
The thing is, you've got to have all your strings. Your preparation of your strings is really important. That they're all the same, and that you get all the stretch strings that you use before you true them up.
Yeah.
And then I use a bike bolt everything in, so that I can keep everything lined up nice and straight.
Sure. Is that just for the handle, or do you use the vise for the thong as well?
Use the vise for the top as well, so that you can move the thong up a little bit, and that way you're not getting too far away from the bike.
Oh, yeah, probably better on your back too, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. My goodness. Would you say that you still enjoy doing this kind of work, or is this?
I love it.
Yeah. I was going to say, is it just work? But no, that's great. What is it that you
learning something?
Yeah. Learning something?
Every time I make whip, I always try and make it better. You always think, oh, if I try this, what if I try this?
Yeah.
And trying to get a better fit. And that's what I like. I like just keep improving things. Sometimes it might only be finite, very, very small.
Sure.
But you'll notice that everything it gets a little bit better each time.
I mean, you've obviously been very good for a very long time. You have some amazing work for many years. What do you have any goals or any other challenges that you're hoping to tackle with your whip making career?
No, not really. I'm sort of retired from this side of things now. Probably going to judge, asked to judge this year.
Oh, wonderful.
Well, go over there and look at some of the work that's going on there. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think the judging will be a way for you to help the next generation of whip makers, or is it really for you to be able to see and just be immersed in that culture? What is it about judging that you're looking forward to?
It just keeps you in touch with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of why I do this podcast, actually, is that it's, especially here in the States. Thank you. It's so hard, and so much of whip making is a solitary process. And yeah, when you, just like when that first time that you were able to go to the whip making convention, or and anytime you're able to see other whip makers, it's so inspiring. So hopefully I can help bring people together. And thank you for being on the show like this. This is really inspiring to see what it takes to get there. So if you were to, I guess since you're pseudo-retired, the next one that you're going to make, do you look forward to making another high plait count? Or are you thinking of just trying to get that next 12 flat to be just all that much better?
Probably a bit of both, I guess.
Yeah.
They're always keeping the working gear when you're making a four-flat bed, I look at that and think, yeah, that seam could be a little bit straighter, or
Sure.
it could fit or sit in just that little bit nicer. The taper could be a little bit better off. And yet,
Sure.
I'm always excited every time I finish a whip. I've got an old head I've made, and every whip that I make goes up the head, I take them out and test them. As soon as I finish, as soon as I get a cracker on it, if it's not raining, I'll take it outside, try it out.
That's I know for me that's always a reward at the end. That's always exciting to crack it for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that feeling like for you when you get that first swing in?
Yeah, I think when I'll swing it around and you try to feel how smooth it goes through the air.
Yeah.
Where the weight is and feeling that weight. So you swing it around a couple of times before you crack it. Yeah, it gives you a pretty good indication of how it's going to work even before you crack the whip.
Sure.
The way it flows through the air.
Yeah. Is it what do you so once you do that swing and you get that crack at the end, for me at least, it's always very satisfying. It cracked. Not that you expect it not to, but how much of it is that just relaxing into a job well done versus really analyzing the details of what you're doing and thinking about the next one?
Well, probably both.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Both?
Because you're analysing it and then you're thinking, oh, yeah, we can do it a little bit better next time.
Yeah. So do you have that sense of accomplishment after each one that really, I mean, you've done so many at this point. Probably it's old hat, but still it's a job well done.
Well, they've got to work.
That's true.
That's the thing. It's got to crack above anything else.
True.
So
yeah,
if it doesn't work or it doesn't work well, it can be as pretty as you like. But if it doesn't work, it's pretty much useless. Really, is you can hang it on the wall, look at it. That's all it's good for.
True. That's not what we're trying to do here. It's supposed to be functional art.
That's right. Functional always comes first.
Functional always comes first. Yeah. I think it was, in Taubman's book, Richard Taubman's book. He was talking about about if he makes it beautiful, then you don't know if it's going to be good or not. But if you make it functional, or maybe it's Paul Nolan. Anyways, if you make it, focus on it being as functional as it can be, the beauty will come with it, and it being a perfectly tapered and so forth. It has a beauty of its own as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, the shape of the thong or taper, you can usually tell what that's like even on the belly.
Yeah,
yeah, or even the core. You'll rub a core up and have it sitting there. Have a look at it, hold it, and look at it from one end to the other, and have a look where the weight's going to be and how it's out. Yeah.
Right. This probably less lead than your first one, also. So
I don't use lead at all.
Yeah,
that's one of the things with the shot loaded whip, the mistake behind it, and I get asked a lot of times about from other up and coming whip makers about shot loaded whips and that sort of thing, and it's totally unnecessary. There were stories about fellas putting cables in whips and speedo cables and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
And lead loading. But I think the shot loaded whip or lead loading, that's just for when people didn't really understand paper and how a whip functioned, so they'd add more weight to it to counteract, but the knowledge lack of knowledge of the taper of a whip and how it functions properly.
Okay. So when you think back at the head stockman's whip that you first saw that inspired you,
Yeah.
What does that look like? I mean, I'm sure that's through the haze of memory as well. But compared to what you see now,
that one.
say again.
It's pretty clear, that memory.
Oh yeah. So what did it look like, and how do you think that inspires what you're doing now? Does it compare to some of the work you see now?
Oh, for sure. Alex was a really good whipper. Yeah. And it was probably 20 years after that I saw that whip that the head stockman brought it to me to recover it.
Oh, is that right? You got to see it again.
Quite a bit. So I recovered it, and then last year, I think it was, he brought it back to me again, and I think I had to replace the foil on it, but it still had the cover that I'd put on it 20 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must be really fascinating to see. My goodness. Do you get a lot of repair work with old whips like that?
I do quite a bit of restoration stuff on older whips.
Yeah?
Yeah. And you got to take a lot of care with those sort of things, because sometimes the kangaroo hide dried out or been looked after, it's pretty brittle.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to try and get the moisture and the oils and that back in it before you start working with it.
Ah, okay. So you kind of restore the hydration and the oils first and let it before you start working it.
Yeah. And I love doing the restoration stuff because you get to look at old whips from years ago.
Yeah.
And you can pick little things up, and you work out who the makers are, where they come from. So, yeah, it gives you insight into the history of that sort of thing.
What other ones have you seen that have been interesting? What other old whips?
Some of the old handles that have been carved.
Yeah.
On whips from around the early 1900s.
Whoa.
When the stocks weren't added on them, they used a lot of carved handles like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know the makers of any of those, or have you had to repair them?
Oh, well, see, the thing was, they used to sell thongs separately to the handle. So you could have really basic thong and then have a handle put on that. Like a flat thong, and then have a handle on it.
Wow.
So this McCleary handle up here, it's a 20-strand handle on that, and it had a 16-strand two-tone thong on it. But I've got the catalogue that advertises Henderson with.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Their thongs start at 6 foot long, and they go through 10 foot.
Okay.
They're the prices on them. And they go 8 flats through to 24 flat.
So yeah, you could just pick what you need for your situation and pair it up. Yeah, what is that you have behind you there? It's beautiful. You could
there's whether you see that.
Oh my goodness. Let me go full screen. Oops, not that one. Or that one. There we go. Yeah, look at that. My goodness.
And there's see if I can on the camera. There's the keeper. This is a keeper that I replaced.
Yeah?
Probably 25 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
But the shape of the thong on that Cleary whip, that sort of changed my
that's just stunning.
The way I made things and that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a rawhide quirt there as too.
Okay.
So that one's
look at the detail on that. Oh my goodness.
Rawhide with coffee strands. There's 48 strings in the body of it and different knots. So that's just some of the rawhide work that I like doing. I really enjoy working with the rawhide as well.
Yeah. Do you make your own rawhide?
Yeah.
Wow. What does that take?
Kangaroo hide stuff we get from packers.
Okay.
But all the cowhide that we use, it's all prepped here on site. Local person that does on butchery, and he supplies me with any hides I want.
That's a nice deal right there.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in the rawhide? Were you able to? Well, you mentioned you were doing cowboy gear before you started with whips. Is that?
Yeah, that's sort of where the rawhide work started, and it was about the same time as, or before I went to the John Deere with the whipmakers. I wanted to get into making rawhide gear with the hackamores and that sort of thing.
Sure.
And I had a fellow over here in Australia, a fellow called Gunny Beresford, and he was making trees, rawhide trees and that, and he helped me a lot in the preparation of my rawhide, dehairing and fleshing. Yeah.
Yeah, the hard work there.
Yep.
Do you, I mean, obviously with your latest whip, you did the whole handle in rawhide. How is it working with rawhide different to you than working with just kangaroo, or whether
it's a lot tougher.
True.
Yeah, it's a different medium. So there's different things that leather itself is a lot easier to use than the rawhide is.
Easier?
You've got to temper the rawhide to work with it, even just to split it and skive the edges. Like those strings are 0.7 millimeter wide, all four edges are skived.
Wow.
So you're taking off just that tiniest little bit. So the preparation in the strings is a lot more involved in it than what you would with kangaroo hide, just normal leather.
Sure. Wow. I was just thinking through, you have a pile of 96 strands that all have to be skived on all four sides. That's days and days of work right there.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow. That's so impressive. I don't even know. Do you have any other whip makers or whip crackers that you're following and like still being inspired by these days, for either rawhide or otherwise?
I like to look at everybody's work.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see you on the Facebook groups pretty frequently commenting on things, which is really wonderful.
Yeah, I like to keep the rest of things. I sort of dropped out of the thing for quite a few years. Life sort of different direction for a while.
Yeah?
So, I only got making the whip again full time, probably 18 months ago.
Right. Yeah. I know there were some people worried about you, sir. I'm glad you're back, and obviously you come back with a bang here at the platting championship. That was stunning.
Yeah, it's probably something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Do something out of with rawhide. Especially the kangaroo rawhide, making a fancy handle. But being able to incorporate or marry that up with leather as well, with leather thong.
Yeah, you don't see that very often.
No, I've never seen it.
I think Blake Gorey had something where he did a bit of an interweave.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't think of anything, certainly not recently.
Yeah. I did a 5/8 or 3/4 plat rawhide handle with 60 strings, and it was just straight coloured rawhide kangaroo. That was a couple of years ago now, and that's sort of what inspired me to just push a little bit further and do some two-tone stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's certainly it's amazing that you take a break and then you just come back and you knock out the 96 plat.
I got another old one.
Ooh,
Yep.
what's this?
This is an old whip that I made for a very good friend about 30 odd years ago. And that was probably some of the first two-tone work I did.
Oh,
It's
that's beautiful.
24 strands in the handle and 16 in the thong. But it's still got the same Coonan's red-eyed fall on it that it did 35 years ago.
Oh my goodness. Holding up, I suppose, then. Wow.
Yes.
If somebody's been taking good care of that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's impressive. Do you have any whip crackers that you like to follow? We mentioned Adam earlier, but you're obviously there in Australia, the mecca of whip cracking in the world. Who do you like to follow there and see what they're using and so forth?
Yeah, Ben Hughes is a good one, although Ben's not got a real lot now. And then Daniel Weck,
Oh, of
he's
course.
just amazing. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I've actually been talking to Ben. Hopefully he'll be on the show sometime soon.
Yeah.
Be good to talk to him. I know there was a when I was doing a little bit of research that there was the Whipmakers Association that you took over. Is that correct? After Ron Edwards passed?
Well, Ron was he was the editor of the magazine for the journal.
Okay. Of the journal itself, right?
Yeah. So when he passed, I took on the role as editor of the magazine for a couple of years until I moved to the North.
What was that? Was that like? Did you enjoy that process? And what sort of challenges did you see in there?
Well, the biggest challenge was getting enough material to publish.
Ah.
And I think that was a challenge for Ron also. That's why there was a lot of Ron used to do a lot of articles for the magazine himself. He sort of really bolstered it up.
Sure.
A lot of the information that's in his books was put into the magazine, and a lot of it was put in there into the magazine before it was published in the books.
Okay.
So I tried to bolster things by putting articles in around tying knots, different Turk's head knots, and I designed a few different Turk's head knots in the magazine, and how to understand plaiting patterns and that sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
It was not a real lot around on pattern work.
Yeah.
There wasn't flat or anything like that. I only found out about there a couple of years ago. So I said, have you seen this program? And
that's a game changer.
Yeah, I think it's made it very easy to do pattern work. Like when I first started doing pattern work, I just got everything out of the graph paper.
Right, and then so many did.
How to take the strings under and over and where they had to go. Especially when I started getting into the finer, like 32, 36 string stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were working with the magazine there, is that the sort of information that you were, when you're making whips when you got a commission to make a whip, you thought, well, this will make a good article? Or were you just racking your brain every month to try to find, or however often it came out, to find something to bolster the material?
Yeah. Because there was so much published, didn't really want to try and overlap things too much.
Yeah, true.
So that's why I got into a lot of different Turk's heads. And Ron helped me with initially how to set them out. And then I went about some different styles of things, having a look at some of the Argentinian work, working out how those how they were tied, and then drawing up the instructions for those different.
Okay. That's the Argentinian work is really amazing. They do some really detailed, outstanding work.
Yep.
Yeah, I was looking at a knife someone covered the handle with, and I don't know how many strings that was, but it was minuscule.
Yeah,
it was just beautiful. Do you have any plans to write another book or document some of these things now farther on? Several whip makers are talking about writing books. Of course, Johnny Ogren has his book that he's written.
Yeah, I've done a few short ones that I've used in the whip making school.
That's right. You have the school as well.
Yeah, I'd like to sort of concentrate on doing a bit more of that sort of work, teaching people.
Yeah.
There might be an opportunity to host some advanced schools.
That would be really fascinating.
Done that in the past. Like people come, we set up somewhere that we can spend 4 or 5 days making the likes of a 16 plait 2-tone whip.
Right.
And you get the basics of the more advanced work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that would be awesome. I would definitely want to be on your on your short list for that. If you decide to do that, let me know. That would be so amazing. And it looks like you've done some outreach as well for throughout Australia there. From some of the pictures on your website, with the teaching other kids how to do plaiting and so forth.
Yeah, well, I was working for the education in the territory, running course programs at a couple of different schools and that out there.
Oh.
We did work and plaiting and that stuff with them as well.
Yeah.
And then we've been out in the communities like in Central Australia doing whip making and plaiting tuition out there.
Okay. How does that do you enjoy that sort of work? What is it that you get out of it? How do you
seeing people, the look on their face when they finish making it, especially the young people?
Oh yeah.
They take it out and they go bang, and their eyes just light up. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's very rewarding. Yeah, I could see how that would be rewarding to, especially in wanting to do that more in the future, either with your own schools, or do you want to do more outreach or other community work like that, or is that not?
Oh, I do enjoy it. Yeah, I do enjoy working with the young people. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. If I ever make it out to one of your schools, I definitely will be bringing my son with me. That would be awesome. You've got kids as well. You said they're grown, so
all grown up.
You know what it takes to show kids how to be a man. What it takes to grow up. I was looking through your. You have actually some pictures of some schools, whip training schools that you did years ago, or whenever it was. But yeah, it's just stunning. Some of the work they've done. You can see the joy on these kids' faces, the pride with. You just look at those smiles. I bet that's really rewarding.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We've been doing some of the schools locally here at the moment too. I've got another one coming up at the end of April, I think.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah. So, like, as part of a school itself, or something you're putting on?
Just the whip making. Did one for young people, which went very well.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, this is teaching them certainly a trade that they could carry forward into their life.
If they want to, sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Just looking at your whips here and drooling on my computer screen. It's so beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody should check this out.
Most of the orders and that I take now is either by word of mouth, so people ring me up, or through Facebook now.
Right.
That's the best way to get in touch with me.
Okay. So just Chris Barr on Facebook, right? Or
Yeah.
do you have your professional page? Okay. If for the gallery, we are, for the audio listeners for later, we're at deadringer.com.au. But as Chris just said, yeah, look him up on Facebook to place an order. But yeah, you can see some of the work that he's done over the years here. Just incredible. All right. So what else is new with Chris Barr? What do you want to tell the world here? We can continue talking all about some of your history and people that you've learned from and all. What else is new with you?
Oh, just enjoying doing rawhide work at the moment,
Okay.
especially the way the weather's been.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it mostly with whips, or do you have other rawhide projects that you're working on as well?
Oh, there's quirts,
Like the quirt, yeah.
hackamores. Yeah, some of the stuff that I've put up on Facebook. Yeah, rawhide without. Also,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I hear another voice there.
I do put some of the rawhide work up on my friend's on her webpage with DB Braiding.
Okay.
So that's dbbraiding.com.
DB braiding.
Yep.
Delta Bravo braiding. Okay. I'll add a link to that in our show description as well. People can.
Yeah, that's where I'm selling the rawhide gear. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard another voice there. Is that your wife? If she wants to say hi, she's welcome to. Otherwise,
that's my friend that I work with. Yep.
Okay. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, Diana.
Hey, hi there.
So do you have how shall we call it, a team of to help you work with the braiding projects, or is it mostly just you? Does your friends help you?
Just myself and Diana.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Diana's got her own business, DP Braiding.
Okay, so that's her site you're talking about. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll certainly check that out and link to that as well.
Yeah.
And well, we could even do another episode with Diana that we could talk about.
Yeah, she's not into. She doesn't do the whip stuff. It's all the buckaroo gear. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
I'd like to say I just read everything because they're the best in the world. What's the point?
Right. Yeah. So just continue to focus on what you have there.
Yeah, the old whip, that was what I made that for Diana. Was 35 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very lucky. That's a gorgeous whip. All right. Well, we do want to be respectful of your time here. We have. I certainly want people to encourage people to go over and order a whip from you if you're still accepting orders and go look and see what you have.
Accepting orders. I don't take too many orders. I try not to. Sort of trying to limit it each month.
Okay.
Because I don't want to get to the stage where I've got a big waiting list. I like to be able to turn things over to people pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I just like to keep it so that I can make some real nice gear myself, and then that stuff will be for sale. And then if someone wants a custom order made, well, then I can set aside time to do those custom orders each month as well.
Right. Yeah. I saw you had posted you had was it a dozen or 8 or something of the red hide whips that you had put together. And so I don't know if those have all sold or not, but looked like you had some available.
Some of those still available. I did make some for there's a campcraft over here in Australia that's local.
Yeah.
And I helped trophies and that for the trophy whips for that campcraft.
Oh.
So I do a lot of that sort of stuff too. So I make trophies or collector items.
Right.
They're for the corporate gifts and that sort of thing.
Right.
A lot of the plain stuff.
Sure. Probably a lot better return on your time for what you can charge as well.
Well, I wouldn't say that so much, but
No?
because there's the time that's involved in it, and compared to the lesser whips, there's still a lot of preparation time that involved with that sort of thing. Yeah.
True. Okay.
And I think that's what a lot of the hobbyists and that are out there they're not charging very much for the stuff that they're making. And they're really not doing anybody a service, especially not themselves,
Yeah.
when they don't charge what they should be for a similar sort of product.
Sure. I actually I would like to talk to you for a moment about that. I don't know how many of the other episodes you've heard, but we've talked about it with a couple other people. So you have lots of people getting into whip making that are just beginning, and of course their work is not great when they begin. They know that, so they want to charge accordingly. It takes them a lot longer to get started, a lot longer to make a whip than when someone that knows what they're doing later. So they want to charge less, but they also don't want to dilute the market too much with too poor of quality or too inexpensive items. Also, you have Amazon and eBay with very, very poor quality whips out there that people are buying and getting frustrated with. How do we, as people that are getting started or as people that are professional whip makers now, how do you navigate that price versus what the competition out there that's so low quality?
Well, I think people that are just starting out to buying whips for cracking, that sort of thing, they probably don't want to spend a real lot of money.
Probably beat it up too. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's different markets, I suppose.
True.
So you've got people that already done crack whips and they've got a bit of an idea of the quality of whip they want to put, and they've probably got a fair idea of what sort of money they're going to be looking at. Whereas someone else that just buys something off Etsy or eBay or something like that, they don't really know the quality either. But they'll find out pretty soon.
That they will. Or they're just wanting it to hang on the wall, or they're doing a dress up of some sort.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it all depends on what sort of a budget they've got, really. And that's one of the things that I ask people when they get in touch with me, and they'll say, "Oh, we're looking to buy a stock whip." And I say, "Well, what do you want to use it for? What's it going to be used for initially?"
Yeah.
And then next thing is, what sort of a budget are you looking at?
Right. So that's where when you're talking to people like corporate gifts and so forth, you could get much more information.
Yeah. Because it's no good going through a whole lot of questions and that with people, and you get to the end and they say, "Oh, no, that's too much money for me. I can't afford that." So if you start saying, "Well, what can you afford straight up?" and you give them they say, "Oh, I've got $750 to spend on a whip." I say, "Well, this is what I can do for that."
that's a really good approach too. And I have certainly, I don't want to say wasted my time. I always enjoy talking to people about whips when they want to order one from me. But yeah, it was wasting my time. There's two ways to look at it, I guess. But yeah, it was outside their budget.
Yeah.
I'm here in Fort Worth, Texas, so-called Cowtown, and some people contacted me that they had a group of people that they had a bunch of cowboys that work for them, basically, and they wanted to supply a number of whips for. They wanted leather whips, and they wanted them to be a minimum of 6 foot, maybe 8 foot, and they wanted them for under $100 each. So I told them they'd have to. I could do some nylon work, but it would be more than that. It would be at least 200, and it would be 6 foot. So yeah, we went different directions, and somebody else is working for them now. But yeah, it's interesting to see the expectation versus what they can get. And if I'm ordering an art whip, for lack of a better term, what do you call them? A collector's whip like that? That's so beautiful. Is there a
pretty much just collector's item.
Collector's item whip? I mean, I would go into it knowing I'm going to need to spend thousands of dollars. Like that's it's so much time and effort, and it is a unique, literally unique, one of a kind, handmade item. That's what that is.
And I think a lot of people don't realize the time that's involved in constructing pieces like that.
Right.
Especially just the preparation. Preparation time.
Like just of the strings themselves, you're saying, or like the design, or all of it?
And designing, doing the design work, that work, just designing that, like, and then making sure that design is going to fit on the article that you're building.
Right.
Like you might do some really nice design that up, and then you'll start braiding it and think, well, that just doesn't work.
Yeah, it wraps around too far and you can't tell what it is. And
can't see anything that's going on there, or it might be too busy. Yeah. And that's a lot of what I've gone away from, doing real big stuff. Like you see heaps and heaps of patterns in some work. And I think your eye just gets taken away from actual work itself because there's just too much to look at.
Sure.
I was real good at that initially because I just wanted to put as much pattern work into it as I could. But I think one of the nicest whips that I've ever made has got very basic sort of patterns. It was the desert themed whip that Adam Whittrick got.
Yeah,
and it was just very basic sort of pattern work.
I'll have to see if I can bring that up and show that afterwards. I bet he shared it on his social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to show a picture of that. That love to see that.
But I think, Christian, getting back to people and paying for whips for their budget, but I think you've got to educate people.
Okay.
And knowing what the quality of things are.
Yeah.
Like those guys you were talking about saying, that they got a budget of $100. But if they spent another $50, then they probably get a whip that's 5 times as good and it's going to last 10 times as long.
Yeah, exactly. And last I heard, they actually had gone up in what they were paying. So
yeah.
Which hopefully they didn't have to learn that the hard way, but perhaps they did.
There's a lot of salaries and that over here in Australia. There's a lot of whips and that around, and there's a lot of varying qualities amongst them, in which the same as Etsy and eBay and all that.
Yeah.
So there's different whip makers, and my friend Diana, she's got a saying: the people that buy your whip, if they're looking at those cheapest things, well, they're not really your people.
You know, that's a good point. That's not your customer. That's not your audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. The do you feel like as people are, well, I just use myself instead of generalizing it specifically. I'm learning how to make whips. And I'm not very good at it. I'm willing to admit it. I mean, certainly compared to your stuff, it's trash. I'm proud of it, but it looks quite good. I made my first snake whip the other day. I'm holding it here, a rawhide.
Yeah.
And if I keep moving it around, it looks nice. Don't look too close. But and I would love to sell it, and some people have been interested. But I also don't want to dilute the market from if somebody wanted to buy a snake whip from you or from any of the other wonderful makers out there. That how do I, like, should I just make this a gift, I guess, or until I can say that I am as good as Chris Barr, then I can start selling my work. And like, where do you think that line is for new people? As someone seeing it from the other end of,
if the people that are looking to buy a whip from you, they're probably not looking to buy a whip from me.
yeah, that's true.
Or vice versa.
Right.
And I'm not saying that to big note myself or anything, but I guess that's just the way it is. Like, someone's not going to go to looking on Etsy buy a Chris Barr.
That's true. Yeah. I see. I think I see what you mean. Just like with other, I mean, you go to Etsy and you probably don't think of who you're buying it from. You're buying it from Etsy.
Yeah.
Even though those are all individuals, but
even though I know there's some really very good mates who put stuff up on it.
yeah, actually Blake Gorey has a store up there.
Yeah. And Blake is I think he's probably one of the best whip makers around at the moment. He's doing some absolutely stunning work.
Yes, sir. I would agree. It's he took first place at LA WhipCon at the platting competition they had there. But yeah, that's that. Thank you for helping me navigate that a bit. I'll take that into consideration and consider to. And I have this conversation with other people as well as they're beginning.
Yeah,
and
you just got to put a price on your time and what it takes you to make it. Yeah.
Sure.
And what you think you're worth? What's your work worth to you?
Okay. I know the popularity of like Nick Schrader and his videos on YouTube, and not to mention Bernie and others that show how it makes it seem, I don't want to say easy, but at least attainable to be able to get started making whips. We see new whip makers showing up on a regular basis, and I do have this conversation probably about once a month with someone asking how do I price this, and I would like to sell them, but I don't want to ruin the market, or the opposite end of the conversation, like I was saying, from people that are professional and they see all these new makers posting on eBay or other places a whip that's undercutting what they're doing, and it can be frustrating. But yeah, I think I like what you're saying. If you don't consider that to be, they're not really your competition, those buyers.
Not really.
Okay.
Right.
No, that's very helpful.
Those guys that are just starting out and they will want to try and make a name for themselves, so they sell things a little bit cheaper. I remember when Adam first started selling, he had those Indiana budget whips.
Yeah.
All black cowboy that he was making.
That
was a long time ago.
I remember seeing, I think he has an old YouTube video about those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He had a niche market, and that's what he was aimed at.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You think that's finding a niche market might be a good way for someone to go as well. Whips are already fairly niche.
Yeah. But
Okay.
you've got all the paracord nowadays too.
Yeah.
There's
that's what I've got
There's
behind
so
me here.
much of that. You see, those whip communities, the different Facebook pages. There's more stuff on paracord whips now than there's leather. That you hardly ever see about leather whips too much. Everyone's asking about different leather and tapers and that on the different paracord whips.
Sure. I think that comes back, and maybe you can speak to this as well. I guess it's two different questions, really. First of all, what are your thoughts on the way that the community has really embraced paracord whips? And paracord whip is, it's a legitimate whip these days. Like there's making competitions that involve those, at least here in the States. Do you feel like those are those really a whip? I mean, in your opinion?
Well, they are.
I mean, they go crack.
They do crack. And you were talking about other whip makers and that. Had James Scott visit here in the last year. And he had a paracord whip and that with him that he used, that he practiced with.
Yeah.
And I tried them out and they worked pretty nice. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was pretty surprised, actually. Yeah.
Have you not had a chance to use too many paracord?
I haven't had a chance to use too many. Adam bought when he came over and used them, and I didn't sort of go on them too much, but the ones that changed, and I think things have improved. The techniques that have improved.
They have.
The plating, I think that's improved with paracord stuff. But I myself, I don't do any paracord. Tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of stick with traditional either cowhide or kangaroo hide. And the red hide, I've got a good source for a really good red hide now. There's a good friend of mine, Michael, making some really nice red hide.
Right.
And initially, we just used it for falls because it was really hard to get decent red hide for falls.
Yeah, for a while there, it certainly was.
Yeah. And now Michael's really good stuff.
Michael, is that Packer?
Yeah,
Packer.
Does boutique leather stuff, and this that is white hide and rip up.
Excellent. Yeah. Yes, I'll need to order some soon myself. I'll have to give him a call. Excellent. With YouTube becoming so prevalent now, obviously learning how to become a whip maker is there's a very different learning experience than the way that you would have learned.
Definitely.
And I don't know if that's for the best or not. I think everybody expects to learn from YouTube. Like you just go there and learn how to do anything. And they don't think about the fact that going to a master, spending time with a master craftsman of some sort can help you break bad habits or those sort of things. Do you think that's a positive or a negative, or what do you think about the moving future of whip making and this ancient craft?
Well, I think it's really made for people that improving a lot quicker.
Oh, okay.
Because the different techniques, they can have a go at it. Put instructions there.
Yeah.
They're not teaching themselves. They can watch someone working and see how it's built. And there's probably, I don't know, you've just did the paracord stuff. How many different videos on there about making paracord whips? And there's a lot of different techniques about how to make a belly and how to taper it. So
Yeah.
people can try all those different things and then work out which one for them.
Right, and really make it unique for themselves. One thing that I've noticed, I started with paracord myself, actually. That's how I began with that whole YouTube video sort of thing, and moved into leather afterwards. I think the biggest difference is with paracord, you can't trim strings. I mean, they're set width. So you have to have different solutions for your problems versus when you're plaiting a whip and you need to bring in the core a bit, you just take off some of the core. You skive off a bit of that belly. And you can sculpt it as you go, if you will. And I mean, you're the master. I'm not telling you anything here. So that for me, that was the biggest eye opener that's different. So it feels like two different, really disciplines that I'm learning, and I don't know. Do you still feel like you're sculpting as you go, or how much of it is this you really know to the millimeter when you're cutting out your bolster there?
I still trim it like that.
Yeah.
If I think it's not quite right, I might unplat a few inches, and so that needs to come down a little bit more, or I'll trim the strings off a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, just to fine tune it. That's what you're doing, sort of fine tune. But you say with the paracord, I think it's probably a bit more consistent than what it used to be.
Probably.
But the different colours, though,
yeah, they're different.
Can be different.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's, especially when people are trying to play, right?
Yeah.
When you've got different size strings, one lot of strings going one way, and a lot of strings is going the other way, not quite the same. That's when it's going to be real hard to keep things straight, because it's spiral at different as they come around.
Right. And sometimes they even feel like they might be slightly different thickness, which also is.
And that's all in keeping things straight, especially with in the leather stuff. Strings should be the same width, should be the same depth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is always skive those down and split them and get them all as perfect as they can be. I was looking at up close on some of the pictures you have posted, and I mean your plaiting is it looks like it's painted on. It's so tight and perfect. It's just beautiful. Does that come from like plaiting tight and the preparation, making sure those edges are beveled just perfectly? What are some tips for getting that to lay so perfectly flat for a beginner?
Well, it's just your preparation.
Those when I prepare, I run all through the splitter.
Okay.
So they're all exactly the same depth. And I'll check that with a little depth gauge, with a little micrometer, to make sure that they're all the same depth. And sometimes when you're running strings through the splitter, I try and run them through all in the same spot. And then I'll get halfway through a strand, if it's a 9-foot strand, and then I'll check again. Because if you've done a few strings and that blade starts to get a bit dull, then that's going to vary that depth strand. It might only be 0.02 of a millimeter, but that will show up on that fine once it's rolled. There might be just that tiny little bit of a wave through it.
Is that primarily for the overlay, or are you that particular on the bellies as well? For everything, okay.
Because if there's any inconsistency in what's underneath, that's going to get multiplied as you add more layer.
Sure. Oh,
So
that
if
makes
you've
sense.
got a little bump in that initial floor, by the time you put another 6 layers on top of that,
Yeah.
it might be only 0.1 of a millimeter, but by the time it gets to the final overlay, that's going to end up being half a millimeter.
Right. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And just like, I guess, your foundation for your house, you don't want to have any problems before you build.
That's it.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That is it. My goodness. There's so much that goes into it. Do you find that when you're putting the bolster over it as well, you've got to have that similar level of being careful with like how the edges meet up and how you're
Sure.
Yeah, you split the bolsters down also?
Everything.
Everything.
Because you want it to be, everything's got to be the same depth.
Right.
They
Okay.
might be, the bolster might be a different depth than the overlay or the plaited belly,
Mhm.
but it'll be the same depth throughout. So
Sure.
that
Okay.
it's consistent right the way through the top.
Excellent. Excellent. Do you find that binding, and I don't know how much binding you do in any of your various models, can that affect the consistency because of the different pressures with where it's wrapped around versus where it's not?
Yeah, it does. The binding will compress things. Depends
Right, yeah,
how
that's what I'm
tight
trying to
you bind it,
Mhm.
and it will compress it. So there's some spots there where you think that when you bind it and it's compressed, then when you braid over top of it, there's going to be a little bit of inconsistencies there. So you got to think about that as you're going through where that's
Sure.
going to be. It might be just a little bit heavier there, or you might bind over it to just build it up a little bit more.
Right. Right.
If there's
Okay.
compress, especially if you're using cowhide. Cowhide's going to compress more than kangaroo. But I
Yeah.
try not to bind too much at all. Only when I really force something, like in transition areas, I usually try and bind pretty there. But
Yeah. But you come out quite a bit, or you just a couple inches there usually, or?
Well, it all depends. See, it depends on what sort of a field, how long the hair, especially on bullwhip.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Um,
I'm sure a 4-foot whip versus a 12-foot whip would be very different as well.
yeah, but you want that transition area to be fairly solid, but it still needs to have a certain amount of flexibility after the transition.
Right. Got to have that. Everything has to taper. It's
Everything has to taper, but I think it's with that transition. It's also got to flow evenly,
okay.
and
So
I think that's some. If people get binding too much, then it's not going to transition evenly through that where that binding.
Sure. Yeah, you'll have that sudden drop off on. It'll be much more flexible afterwards, or vice versa.
It'll be really tight, and then it'll go real floppy.
Right. Yeah, I keep one on my wall over there. That's a lesson learned for that very reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find the flexibility in a handle of like a stock whip specifically? Well, I guess it would apply to a bullwhip too. Do you have to take that into account when you're thinking about that transition period? Like if you're using fiberglass or something?
Yeah, well, see, with the handles in the stock whips is primarily cane. The full flat handles
that is traditional.
Steel line cane.
Okay.
So those handles are going to have a certain amount of flexibility in them. I try to use fairly light cane. I like to have a bit of flexibility in the hand that I make.
Yeah.
I think it helps a little bit with the with the feedback when people are cracking, especially the polys and that. But if I'm making a target whip, like a stock whip, primarily for target, I'll use the hardwood head on those because I don't want to have that flexibility. I find the target whip, having the hardwood handle, take flexibility and make it a little bit more.
That makes a lot of sense. How did you settle on that sort of design? Was that just through experience? Did you have somebody that you were working with that was expert target?
No, just my own mucking around and yeah.
No, it's
probably experimentation, I suppose you could say.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's with the nylon. Every time I watch a new video, it seems like somebody else has found a new product at the hardware store that like try this sort of tape or try this sort of gum or this sort of string, and it gives a slightly different effect. So yeah, they're still exploring what it takes, but of course the leather whips have hundreds of years of experience behind it, thousands of years probably.
And like that, a lot of people try and reinvent the wheel all the time.
Sure. Is there anything?
There you can. There's certain things where it's got to be done this way, but then you can do slight variation, and I think that's with the kangaroo hide stuff. Whereas the only variation we could do was by going fine in the work that we're doing. And with the finish, trying to get a better finish on it. Like there was a lot of different finishes that were around quite a few years ago.
Different types of shellac sort of thing? Is that what you mean?
Shellac, there was hydrolac, there was, I can't think of the different ones now because I haven't used any of them for long. I've just go back to using shellac, and it was used for a long time.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to work out a technique where I was real happy with the way things would get, the whips were finishing off.
Yeah, I still struggle with that. Do you have any tips for those of us learning how to do it? I mean, I've got the flakes and the denatured alcohol and trying to not make it gummy.
No, I just mix it up. Probably 1 part to 10, and then let that gum settle to the bottom, and then just pour that clear liquid on the top.
Okay, and that clear liquid is what you use, or you don't mix the gum back into it?
No, I just make the clear stuff once it's cleared, once it's settled, and pour that off. And then dilute that again with alcohol, because you only want to put very, very thin to start with. Okay. And you might not see any results. You might put 3 or 4 layers on times, and you can't even see where it is.
Right, yeah, that's the problem I was having.
Yeah. And
it's
so
like
you just keep adding very, very thin layers to it. I just put a little bit on a rag and just wipe it over. Let it dry. Wipe it over again. Dry.
And with alcohol, it should dry pretty quick, so you don't have to wait till the next day.
Yeah. Yeah, usually within 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Sometimes even sooner, depending on what the weather's like. Mm-hmm. But I try and pick a day where it's really dry.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense.
I don't like having in the air when I'm putting shellac on.
Yeah. I did some shellac work on, I'm trying to remember what it was I was working on. But anyways, it was a very dry day, but it was also windy. And I came back after 10 or 15 minutes. It was all covered in sand.
Oh, dear.
So other things I've learned, just don't do that. Yeah, it seems like each step has its own, almost, you have to be an expert in so many small fields. Like the plaiting soap, we could probably have a whole podcast about plaiting soap.
Oh, yes, that is for sure.
Do you make your own plaiting soap? I guess while I mentioned it.
Well, I haven't done in the past, but I just recently started working on a few different formulas because
Okay.
the commercially available stuff that I was using, it's not available at present. So I was in a bit of panic because I'd used it for 20 years.
What were you
I can't
using?
get hold of it. So
Oh no.
I've settled on a pretty good recipe now and will probably start to use some of that, sell it with the whip as well.
Okay, yeah. I'd like to get some from you when you have settled on a formula. I'll get a tub of it. Yeah, I've tried the Phoebings, and I've tried Pappy's Dubbin, and a number of other ones here, and I don't know enough about it. Of course, the old recipe from forget which book. One of the whipmaking books had a recipe using lard and soap.
Yeah.
But it's different effects, and some of them really darken it up, and some of it gets real sticky as it begins to dry.
Yeah. And it depends on the ingredients. Like sheep fat or mutton fat is used a lot over here.
Yeah.
And then having a bit of beeswax and that with it, but not too much wax.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard people talk about plus or minus on the beeswax.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll protect it from darkening up the lighter colored, the natural, but it also won't penetrate as much. So it depends on, I guess, what you're using it for. For plaiting, that having more beeswax, I think, would be better. Is that think?
Yeah, it does help a little bit, I think, because as you pull it aside, it doesn't tend to retract as much when you've got a little bit more wax in.
Kind of
and
sticks
that's what
it in
I'm
place.
playing with at the moment. It's just working on a formula that's going to work for that. Yeah, and stuff that we could use on the rawhide as well.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
The videos I've seen, I haven't done much rawhide work. I have done some, but they were talking about soaking it in water and waiting this many minutes, and then plaiting or tying your knots, and then having to spray it or something to keep it supple before it dries and gets hard as stone again.
That's it.
Is that similar when you're working with the whip, or is there like an oil that you're using with it as well? Is it different than that sort of work?
Well, with the rawhide on that handle, it was just mainly with the kangaroo hide, it's keeping the moisture content consistent in it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so that
different.
It's workable. Even though the kangaroo hide is really thin, there's still moisture content pretty critical.
Right. Yeah, and you can get too wet, it gets all slimy.
Well, it swells, see, and then when you braid it, and if it's got too much moisture in it, then when it dries, it'll get left with gaps.
Oh, that's true. Oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that.
So there's a lot of different things involved. The different stuff with it. When you're working with rawhide, your moisture content is pretty important.
Right. Is it possible to? I shows my inexperience with rawhide, but if you're using oils with it, does it change how it's responding at that point, or do you just want to keep that away?
Oh, I'd keep it away. I primarily just
Okay.
Yeah, just to add a little bit of information.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wow. And I wish I could sit down at one of your classes and go over some of these things and just, plait up a bit, and you could tell me how I'm doing it wrong and show me how to do it right.
I had a student yesterday afternoon, and he gave me a call, and he said, I'm having trouble starting this wall platter. So he got me on FaceTime, and I went through it. Yeah.
And you got him sorted?
Got him sorted out. He studied 4-plate whip off again.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, because he bought a kid off me, or a couple of kids he bought after we did the school with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Is he just making him for himself or for his kids or?
Yeah, just for himself.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah, it's neat to see when you're able to help somebody like that. That's got to be really rewarding. Like we were talking about with the schools you've done. Hopefully, there'll be more of that in the future. That would be very exciting to see.
Yeah, sort of entertaining thought about doing online classes as well.
Online classes, you said?
Yeah, I'm thinking of entertaining that if we can get the workstation that I've got at the moment. We've just got issues with Wi-Fi and that. Get Wi-Fi to the area that's going to be suitable. But once we get that sorted out, we might do a little bit more. I did some live stuff on Facebook there last year or so.
Mm-hmm.
Make a red-eyed whip. And that was out here where we are now. So the light was really good. And that worked out not too bad.
And I mean, we can talk. Feel free to ask me technical questions afterwards as well. I'm an IT person, so I can give you some IT support on the side if you want. Can help you out with some of these things. But you could always record it ahead of time, and you don't have to worry about Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, I'm sure that would. I mean, I know I would buy your course. That would be wonderful to watch you make. If there was a handful of videos I could purchase, I think who is it? Blake Bruning has a course, and it's just a series of videos. He makes up a bullwhip, and he did that once, and he just keeps selling the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
So it's a great business model. Maybe one day I'll be good enough to sell something like that. But I love the idea, and I would love to see your expertise to watch over your shoulder. If you could have someone there with a camera standing over your shoulder, and someone to edit it together and really watch, how you're using your body when you're pulling on those strands and how you're keeping things from getting tangled and little things that you don't think about asking until you just stand there and you watch a master do it. It's the little things that you take in.
And it's probably those little things that people that have been doing it for a long time take for granted.
Yes, exactly.
Because that's just something you do.
Right. I mean, why would you do it any other way than this way works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, years ago, when I first started doing the two-tone work and plaiting pants, and I was having trouble plaiting from the keeper end, and I thought, well, why don't we just turn around and plait from the butt where the knob end, and then I can taper my string to come down. This is mainly for the full plait handles. And all the instructions that I'd seen in different books and that, they were all plait middle end. I thought, well,
that's a good point.
It made sense to me to plait from the big end, and then I can take the strings as they come down.
I mean, that's how you do the thong. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, it's things like that would make. I mean, maybe you don't even think about it when you're doing it. You just clamp it in a vise from this end, and that's where you start.
Yeah.
Yeah. On your high plait count whips, do you taper those strands much, or is it just you put those Turk's heads in between where you drop a bunch of strands?
The real high plait count, like 48 and above, they're not tapered at all. But anything 36 below, they will taper a certain amount.
Okay.
Maybe not too much.
There's not much to go there.
No. Well, like I say, with a 32 plait, it might start at 2 millimeters at the big end, and it might finish at 1 millimeter. So you're going from covering something that's 18 millimeters wide at one end millimeters at the other end.
Yeah.
And you
Wow.
might only be taking 0.2 of a millimeter off each time you trim those strings. You might trim those strings 2 or 3 times.
Sure. Yeah. Step it down in a few places. Do you use little gauges when you do that, or most of that tapering just by eye?
Yeah, use little gauges. I've got little gauges that I've made up, and I've used them for many years. And I think Ron Edwards, he did a drawing of one that I made out of a toothbrush. He thought it was pretty unique.
Yeah.
Published in a journal, and then a lot of other people start using gauges, like make them up. And I was with another whipmaker up in the Northern Territory. He showed me these gauges that someone had made up that were similar to mine, but they were made on one on 3D printer.
Yeah, I've got a set actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really fascinating. It depends on the plastic on those too. They're a great idea. Lots of variation in size. Can be very exact, but certain plastics are very soft, and the blade will cut in more and more and more, and then all of a sudden, your 2 mil gauge is now more like 1.75.
That's exactly right.
Do you have the same issue with the gauges that you use? You have to remake them on a regular basis?
We don't have to remake them too much, but they do. Sometimes they'll get bigger. It all depends where you're putting the blade on.
Oh, yeah.
Or
These have a little notch
I used
on
to
them.
use them to trim the rawhide, but the rawhide would wear them away and they'd get bigger and bigger.
True. Oh my goodness. Wow. Are there other specialized tools that you would recommend for people that are trying to, approach the more master level of work here?
A really good knife.
Really good knife.
Sharp. That is, I think, the biggest downfall for people that are doing leather stuff, just getting into it, is that their tools aren't sharp enough.
Oh, okay.
The knife's not sharp enough. Splitters, if they do have a splitter, they're usually not sharp.
Okay. Do you think the commercially bought razor blades, or is that sharp enough, or is it? Do you want to strop something down even more?
Pretty good, but see, even after a short time, the scalpel blade it'll dull pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like you might be able to cut half a whip out with a scalpel blade. Well, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Before, and I'll go and polish it. I'll put it on a puffing wheel and polish that edge, and then I'll go back.
Okay.
And I'll have 2 or 3 knives sitting there, sharpened up, and then I'll just interchange.
Okay.
Between each one, if it's not sharp enough.
Right. One of the other whip makers I was talking to uses the snap-off blade, so you keep pushing out a bit more.
Yeah.
You can snap it off.
I don't think I've never found any of that that are sharp enough to use.
Okay.
Well, in my opinion, that's just my opinion.
No, it's and that's notable.
And
there's different brands.
I used some ceramic snap-off blades, but I had to get in and polish the hell out of them too first. Before,
okay.
But they used to hold their edge very, very well.
Never heard of that. I'll have to check those out and see how they work. But do you have like a particular type of steel that you think makes a good blade that holds an edge, or you've just found some?
Got some kitchen knives. They're just I think they're air like that I've been using. Or there's, I think they're Victorinox. They've got a little paring knife, and they work good.
Okay.
You just need to buff them up, and they come up pretty well. Yeah.
Excellent.
And they're fairly inexpensive. I think they're less than $10. It might even be around $5 like that.
Wow.
And they're available on eBay pretty easy.
I'll have to look around and see if I can find one of those and see if it's the right one.
But
It's
they
always
still need to be stropped.
okay.
Either on a leather strop, like a razor strop,
Mhm.
or if you've got a little bench grinder wheel on it,
Right.
polish. Make
Okay.
sure that these blades are sharp.
Okay. And is that something that you feel like different blades you'll have to sharpen different amounts? Like different steel will hold the edge better, or
Yeah.
is it-
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Your cheaper knives and that, then those blades, they're probably not going to stay sharp as long.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know I bought, I have a set of, well, it's for my Aussie strander. When I'm use that some, I'm still exploring what works best for me, but the little injector blades that came with it,
Yeah.
the ones that came with the package, they dull up so quickly. But the ones I bought that it's from the same company, the replacement blades, those hold an edge much longer. So it's fascinating to see
Bit
how,
better steel, probably.
I guess, yeah.
Number 10 scalpel blade work pretty good in those Aussie strands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you use that for when you're cutting things out still?
No,
Or, no?
never.
You cut by
No.
eye? They cut it out
Everything
by eye?
just cut by hand.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I just use gauges to trim things up, because I find that if like cutting by hand, just doing it free, if there's any spots that are got more stretch, cut just that little bit wider.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the areas around the hide where I know it's not going to stretch, especially around that butt tail area,
Mm-hmm.
I can cut that pretty much straight to size. And then as you
Right.
come around in through the belly area, it's going to stretch a bit more. Sometimes you might cut them twice as wide.
Sure. Yeah, that's probably comes with a lot of experience to be able to read the hide like that. That's, I struggle with that still. You know, my biggest mistakes have been things that have gotten stretched down too narrow.
Yeah. And that was my biggest deal when I first started, was I didn't know anything about it. I didn't have anyone in front of me. And I used to just mark the leather out with a set of dividers and then use a round knife on a table, just cut it
Sure.
out. And it wasn't until I went to the area in 92, the whipmakers, the first whipmakers together, that I saw Morris sitting down there and he was just thumbnail cutting. And that's when I thought, when I came home, that I'm already marking it out. So if I sit down and I can cut it out with a knife just freehand. And I think probably by the time I cut about 2 or 3 weeks out freehand, find that I didn't have to follow that guide that I was using so much, and so I just went away from it. I wasn't
Okay.
marking anything out. I just cut freehand straight.
Probably a lot less waste too, the better you get. You can read that.
Oh, definitely. And you,
Yeah, that's,
especially with the in the stretching areas where they stretch a bit more.
yeah. It's, it seems like magic when I see how little waste some of, the masters have. I've seen a few posts that people have put on Whipmaker's Hook and all, like, here's how much waste I have, how much I've trimmed off, and it's just nothing.
Yeah.
But for me, it's still a lot. So yeah, that's really cool
I
to
don't
see.
mind having a bit of waste, because I want to be able to make the best product that I can. And if if the hide's got too much stretch, if it's got a lot of stretch in it, I'll probably
Mhm.
just use that part, stuff like that.
Okay.
That outer edge, and I wait until right into the middle. I'll start cutting strings for an overlay.
Okay. You don't find the tighter curve. I guess with the smaller stuff, it's not as big of a deal. As you get the smaller spiral, is there what's the line there on it's stretching too far on one side versus.
Yeah, I don't have too much concern about that. Once you stretch, you trim it, and you're going around in a circle anyway, so usually everything just follows along.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's certainly helpful.
But you're not going to go and cut it, corner it right angle like that.
Oh,
If
true.
it starts to get too much of a tight circle, tight turn, well then I'll just trim that off so it's a lot easier.
Okay.
It's not tight,
Just on that outside edge there.
just that outside bit, trim that off just a little bit.
Good. Oh, that's so wonderful. I want to go cut up another hide right now. Just it's inspiring. I'm gonna have to come out to one of your classes and see this. This is very exciting. Were there other things that you picked up, like from what was it, Morse Dillon? That when you were there, like what were some of those? I mean, that seems like a really big change in approach. Cut it out with a thumbnail.
Yeah, well, I'd probably been making whips for 10 years or something by then.
That's right, you said that.
And had things, well, I thought I'd be good. But then you see work from other guys. And then when you start doing the competition stuff and talking to the likes of Charlie Acid,
Oh,
Charlie was really good in help me with kit and that sort of thing. And I showed him that theory whip, but it's the one that I did by there, and he said, study that whip. And I did, I studied the thong as well. So I made some in the way I tape,
okay.
the way the thong tapered, the different lengths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably seeing more whips by more makers too. I know for me, that's every time I get my hands on a new whip. I mean, you can feel how the balance is and the taper is. Even, I mean, when you crack it, certainly, but looking at how fast it tapers and all, and you can feel that weight distribution differently between different makers. It's there's so much to take in with every whip.
Yeah. And I think, most makers, they've got their own ideas how things work.
Mm-hmm.
I met Tony Nugent at Glen Innes, one of the whip competitions down there one, and that was probably one of the first times that I could get in and talk about the nitty-gritty of whip making, the real finer detail points of things, and it was real surprising how very similar the techniques that we developed were so much.
Ah,
Yeah. And
yeah, like what?
Tony and I talk quite often about the different things and probably stuff that people don't talk about or don't even think about.
Like what? Like I don't know what to ask.
Just depth of strands and the way the belly tapered, and the depth of the belly string. What we put in the core, how we develop the core.
Right. Wow. It's there's so much there, and each maker can probably customize it to be how they feel is best. Do you feel like you have settled on your own way that sets you apart from other makers, or do you feel like you're the same as others?
Oh, I think I've developed what I think. Well, it works for me anyway.
Sure.
And it's the way I do my kit is probably one thing that I've really worked on that's different. But then I see it's been It's been copied quite a bit now. That's probably one of the things. And then plaiting the handle from the big end instead from the little end. I think that's been adopted quite a bit. And just different Turk sets and that I've designed. I've seen a lot of people using those in their, especially in the decorative work.
Right.
And one thing I've seen quite a bit often is the triaxial braid.
Oh, the
Which
triaxial,
is something that I developed into the whip band design into a red.
Is that right? I didn't know that was you. Wow.
So that was primarily used in basket weaving, that triaxial braid. And I mucked around with it for quite a while to get it to work for a whip hand. But there's other people that have been doing it, but it sort of spirals around the handle where it's not straight.
Yeah. Yeah, to get that cross interweave there.
Yep.
Yeah, that. I mean, without it, my head explodes just thinking about what it takes to make a beautiful pattern and keep it all straight. Then you add the third one in there. My goodness, it's
that's
beautiful.
one of the things is to try and keep that straight. And
I don't know
there's
how you
different
do that.
pattern designs that you can do with that triaxial braid. Well,
Here, I'll show it up on screen.
Yeah.
Whoops, there we go.
Yeah,
So,
that's one. And there's a star pattern done with that too.
See,
it might not be in that line. Yeah.
Well, people can go and explore your gallery here. Beautiful work. It's really been an honor to talk to you and just to see the depth of your mastery and just to see how much knowledge you have on every tiny part of this wonderful process. And I really thank you so much for sharing it with the community. I mean, that's why I do this show, is that I want to bring our diverse community together and have people meet you. I mean, hopefully people can watch the show and feel like they get to know you a little bit better. And hopefully you feel like you've gotten to share some of the important parts of who you are and what you do. And I hope people can, go hit you up on Facebook and check out your gallery on your website and get on that waiting list or see when you've got room to make one.
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure yarning with you too.
Well, thank you very much. And I hope as things happen in the future, maybe we can chat again. If there's other topics that you think of, we should have spoke about this thing, then let's do another episode. I hope to have you on again.
There's always something like that'll probably come up, and you'll probably think of something too.
Oh yeah, as soon as we hit the end, I'll think of something. But thank you very much, Chris. I do want to, like I said earlier, half an hour ago, I want to be respectful of your time. So thank you again for being on the show. And go order a whip from Chris.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Really hoping to get more of these tuition videos and that done in the near future too. So there's something for people to look forward to.
Oh yes, please. I'm chomping at the bit for this one.
All right. Thank you very kindly. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And like I say at the end of each of my episodes, tell everyone to keep on cracking.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's where the original episode ended before I had to resume and splice in that piece at the beginning that got messed up. Thank you all for your patience and understanding as we got that put back together. However, we did have a few more topics that we covered, and they're quite interesting. We talk about some spiral fancy work here in just a minute. So enjoy that little bit, and I'll catch up with you afterwards.
Yeah, I'm working on 20 by 16 at the moment for a trophy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Single color, two-tone?
Two-tone. Yep. Yeah,
Beautiful.
and using some probably traditional patterns in it. Yeah, I like to go back to doing a lot more of the traditional stuff and try not to get too fancy on things with stuff like that.
Do some rings and squares and bird's eyes, those sort of things.
Yep, bird's eyes and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or Egyptian eyes, as
Egyptian eyes, yeah.
Ron Edwards used to call them sometimes.
Yep, I love those. Do you still work out a lot of that on paper ahead of time, or do you?
No, those most of the 16 plat patterns and that sort of stuff, I just plat that straight in because I've done so much of it. It just, I just know I know where I'm heading.
Yeah.
So it's really only the 24 strand stuff that I work that pattern. I do the pattern working that out on the graph paper. Yep.
And when you do the really high plat stuff, you use the spiral method on that, to where you
anything over 36 strands, I do. I'll plat up to 36 strands.
Mm-hmm.
I have platted 48 strings.
Ooh.
But that's that sort of takes a little bit to get onto, especially when you're doing the pattern work and that sort of stuff. If it was just straight herringbone, going into ring plats and that sort of thing, it wouldn't be too difficult. Because it's fairly easy to follow where you're going with those patterns.
Okay.
Standard ring plats and in and out of herringbone. But anything, I use it more as, I call it fid work, when you're doing that finer work, when you're spiraling the strings around and then you're working each individual strand through.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I saw some people do with the put lacing needles on all 48 strands or whatever.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot of needles.
Yeah, that's right. I don't use the needles. I just bring them up and bring the strings through as they go.
We've basically finished our interview, but if you don't mind, I want to show you a little project I was getting frustrated with.
Yeah, that happens.
So this is paracord. It's
okay.
It's 1 mil.
Yep.
So I was just starting to learn. I wanted to see what I could do on nylon. I haven't seen anyone do nylon of this plat count. So this will be.
How many strings you got there?
I believe it's 40 and 40. I think it's 80 plat.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So it's it's quite the mess.
Yes. The biggest issue is actually getting those strings to spiral around.
Yes, these are not. They don't want to lie flat. I'm having.
No. Yeah.
So what's the secret?
Even the leather doesn't want to lay flat sometimes too. It'll spin over on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the secret to it? You just gotta take it one at a time and.
Well, what I do is I try and take about 4 strings, and I'll spiral them around, and then tie them off at the top, and then I'll take another 4 strings and spiral them around.
Just like right next to it, go. So you like wide spiral.
Yep.
To leave plenty of room. You don't want to go real tight around it, obviously.
No, you don't want to go tight. You want to try and work out what the angle it's going to be when you start to spiral them around. So you might be able to start getting a few of those strings to go around to start with, or get them all going around to start with, and then isolate 3 or 4 strands, and then spiral them and try and keep that same angle as you work your way up the handle. And then take your next 4 strings and spiral them around. Then once you've got them all tied off, you can work those strings back down beside each other.
Okay, yeah. I was trying to do that with the rubber band. I was working a little bit at a time and then pulling the rubber band down.
Yeah. I tried that. The last one I did is when I worked out that if I only take a few strings at a time, Yeah, it's a lot less of a headache.
That's a good tip. It's a good tip. I love it. I'll give that a go.
After we were talking the other day, Diana and I got in, and Diana's already got her first video up on her website.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, she's done a bit of a paracord tutorial.
Okay.
So going from 4 strings to 8 strings, and then finishing off with a crown knot so that people can make reins and that sort of stuff. If they want.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to go check that out.
She's
Is
got
she,
that up.
Is she gonna set it
Yeah.
up for like a sales sort of thing so she can?
Yeah,
do
she's already set it up for a sales thing. I think she's charging $18 for it, for that 20-minute video.
That's a
Yeah.
That's a
So
steal.
I don't know whether you can bring it up there, but if you bring up her DB Braiding website, that
Yeah.
dbbraiding.com, and then you can go to the there. She's got a link right at the top, tutorials.
Let's see here. dbbraiding.com. Here we go.
There should be a link right at the top there. It says tutorials.
Tutorials. Yeah, right
Yeah.
there.
And then if you click on that one,
Introduction to braiding. 20-minute video demonstrating how to begin a four braid round into an 8 braid. Tutorial concludes with crown knot, giving you basic skill for many projects. $18.
yeah, so you click on that one, and then it brings it up again. But there's a little short video there that you can watch.
Oh, excellent.
There's a little bit of this other stuff going on there with it too, so it should
Yeah.
fade in.
Oh, that's great. I'm so proud of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see,
What we've-
she's got it up. That's something she can sell over and over. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And yeah, in the probably next couple of weeks, or even, yeah, we'll start doing the whipmaking one too and put that up there.
All right.
So we'll
I love it.
start with the red-eyed.
Okay.
And I have got some footage of the red-eyed stuff that I actually did a few years ago with Nigel, that fellow that I was telling you about. He was the editor for 60 Minutes in Australia for 15 or 20 years, I think.
Okay.
So we set up a studio in our kitchen or dining room area when he was out in Alice Springs, when I was doing some stuff out there. So I've got a couple of hours of footage of what we did out there as well. So I probably won't use it, but we'll set up in the in our own workshop studio sort of thing now.
Sure. Yeah, I've found that the more recording I do, the more organized my workshop gets. So
Yep. That's right.
you think about everybody walking in and seeing your mess for the first time, like, I should put that away.
Yeah.
No, that's exciting. I can't wait to see it. I'm going to order her tutorial right now. That's excellent.
Yeah, go and have a look at it, and we'd love some feedback for it. Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. I'll send you a message afterwards.
You're all righty. I've done a bit of video work, and that a friend of mine was he was doing documentary stuff with me when I was out in the desert, doing the school work with the kids and that out there.
Right.
And, yeah, he helped me a fair bit with the video side of things. Yeah.
Excellent. And so did they actually make a documentary out of what you were doing?
He's still working on it. There's there was about 6 years worth of footage. He come out
Oh my goodness.
every year and spend 2 or 3 weeks with us. And then he actually followed us. He went over to Israel with us. We took some of the young fellas from the community over to Israel for a big celebration over there.
Yeah.
The Australian Light Horse Association. Yeah.
I didn't know that Israel was a big part of that. That's wonderful.
Well, it was during World War One.
Yeah.
And it was the 100th anniversary or the centenary of the last great cavalry charge, or we call it light horse over here.
I see.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's fascinating. Yeah, I hope the whatever he makes out of it, we can watch eventually. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, some pretty good stuff there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Chris. Hope you have a great afternoon. And
Absolutely.
thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right. Cheers, I see ya.
Thank you again, Chris, for being on the show. And thank you all for watching and listening to this episode. Remember to like and subscribe. And also, you can help keep this show on the air by going to whipchatpodcast.com/donate. Thank you very much.